everyone. Welcome to the AZ Central and Arizona Republic Storytelling Holiday Spectacular. My name is Megan Finnerty, and I am so excited to welcome you here to my beautiful home in downtown Phoenix, where we're hosting tonight's show. But you're in your home, so you're hosting it there. This is great. We are closing 2020 with our hearts in the right place, even if our butts are still in our houses. And the reason I mention that is because normally on this show, if you're a fan of our 10 years of storytelling tradition here in Phoenix, we would be at the Arizona Biltmore Resort. But this year, we are we're inside in our houses because we know it still feels unsafe to gather collectively outside, but it still feels really emotionally important to be together as a community inside, or if you're watching this on your patio or whatever. We really appreciate you taking a chance on live storytelling tonight. And I always say that you're taking a chance because this is true first-person storytelling brought to you live. And we appreciate you wanting to be curious about your neighbors, because we know when you sit down to watch something on Netflix or even TV, there's possibly reviews and you pretty much know what to expect. And we hope that we've developed a reputation that you know what to expect, maybe emotionally, even if you're not totally sure what to expect literally. Since 2016, the Storytellers Project has brought more than 100 shows each year to communities across the country. But as I mentioned, we've been remote this year during 2020 since April, and we will be again in 2021. And we're excited, though, to bring you this show with the partnership of the Arizona Lottery. They stuck with us during the pandemic and actually partnered on a few shows to raise money for various charities in the state of Arizona. And we really appreciate their support of this show. As some of you know, if you bought tickets, this was supposed to be at a drive-in movie theater in northish Scottsdale. But that was not to be. It didn't seem prudent. But they're staying with us here for the virtual show, and so are our storytellers. We are really grateful to them. We offered them a spot outside in the cold on a stage in the dark, but they're willing to sit inside their warm, brightly lit houses to tell you stories. And that brings me to, I'd love to introduce them. Our former colleague at the Arizona Republic, and now author, crafting expert, total pro who does a million interesting things, Cano Murillo, the crafty chica, is here tonight. Thanks, Kathy, for joining us.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Liz Warren is the founder and director of the South Mountain Community College Storytelling Institute. She's my mentor and a longtime supporter of the project, so we really appreciate Liz being here. Ernesto Ortiz is a comedian and storyteller. He's here. Thanks, Ernie, for being here tonight. And Teresa Strasser is a comedian, an author, and a TV and podcast host. Thanks so much for being here, Teresa.
Thank you for having me.
Heck yeah. So as you guys might notice, if you're regular fans of the Storytellers Project, tonight is a greatest hits show. All of these people have told true first-person stories on our holiday stages before, and we invited them back because we know 2020 has been filled with weird surprises. We did not want this show to feel that way. We wanted tonight's show just to be ringers. Also, we're leaving our microphones open during the show because we wanted to be able to clap and sort of laugh appreciatively. So if you hear anything during the show, we're trying to provide a little bit more emotional immediacy tonight. And if anything weird happens, Michael Heller is here. He works behind the scenes at the Storytellers Project, and he's going to be muting anything and taking care of stuff. But if you hear anything, we're trying to bring you like a little bit more emotional connectivity with tonight's show. Tonight's not a TED Talk. It's not Toastmasters, a how-to, or an inspirational speech. Instead, it's a visit, particularly today on the occasion of the solstice, but always here in the Northern Hemisphere, we tell stories about our most important and deeply held values. We focus on how we can be a light to others and a light within ourselves here in the darkest time of year. So as we visit tonight, I hope you are able to take these stories in the spirit in which they're intended, because it is that spirit, that community light that we're all trying to be for each other and gather around collectively. Some of these stories will be polished and professional. Some will be casual and conversational. We ask, of course, that you receive all of them again, because that's how community connecting and change happens. We believe in creating empathy and understanding, and that it's vital at all times, but particularly during times of uncertainty. And so with that, I am actually your first storyteller. Okay, guys, we're ready. Thanks. When I was little, one of my most favorite memories of Christmas is going into the family room of my house, and these tones would go out on my dad's fireman's radio. He was a volunteer fireman in Long Beach, Indiana, which is a very tiny community on the shores of Lake Michigan. And these ringing sounds would go off on my dad's radio, and my brothers and sisters and I would like run into the family room, and we'd gather around, and a man who I later learned, of course, was I think it was the fire chief, Jim Clevenger, although there were many fire chiefs, but I feel like he was the chief for most of the time when I was a kid. He would say that an unidentified flying object had been seen leaving the North Pole, and there was a very tiny red dot at the front of it, and they couldn't be certain, but it might be a sleigh and some reindeer. It was too soon to know. But they also said that it was on a trajectory to travel from the North Pole over Canada, over Lake Michigan, and it seemed like it was heading right for Long Beach, Indiana. But the only thing we could do as kids, of course, was make sure that you were in bed before Santa came. And then he would wrap up by saying, Merry Christmas, ho, 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 and like to all a good night. And this felt incredibly important. Because on my dad's radio, that's where like emergency calls came. That's where my dad would grab the radio, run out the door, and he would suit up as a volunteer fireman. So only things on the radio involved like life and death, literally, and very important things that meant my dad had to run out of the house. And so when this happened every Christmas, we took it very, very seriously. I mean, this was like the gospel truth. And then when I got a little bit older and I kind of realized what was going on the radio, I still felt the magic because I have a younger brother and sister. And that, when I was little, was just unbelievably cool. But my mom was really good at creating holiday magic too. It wasn't just my dad's radio. We lived in a wooded area on the shores of Lake Michigan, and sometimes there'd be deer tracks in the lawn, and my mom would point out that those were reindeer and that they were probably bringing the elves to the neighborhood, and that, had we been good? Did we see them? Did we spot an elf? Were we sure if we saw a reindeer? She was like so good at making, obviously, like the jillions of deer that live in Northwest Indiana seem like legit magical creatures who were coming to check in on us with elves. It was so great, actually. If it sounds like a super good childhood, it was, and not just at Christmas time. But when I got older, our holiday traditions changed really dramatically because we moved to Alabama, which is a perfectly nice place to move, but it was very far from my mom's family, who were all the people that we spent most of our Christmases with, all my cousins and aunts and uncles, like big, huge Catholic family in central Ohio. And it seemed a little maybe like anticlimactic. That first Christmas, I thought it's just going to be my twin sister and I coming from college, and how would we make it feel special with no Nana or no all my cousins, and I don't know, just the fun stuff that comes from being sort of like a critical mass of people you're blood related to crammed into a small house eating too much sugar. And that year my mom said that she was going to make sure it was special by reducing Christmas to just what mattered. It was only going to be our personal family best of, so only the cookies we liked the most. Midnight Mass, we all agreed we thought was really beautiful and we wanted to go. And, that we just watched Christmas movies we wanted, and that you could wear your pajamas 2 days in a row, but you did have to shower every other day. And we would only do the things that made the Finnerty family happy, and we wouldn't have to worry about doing things for other people. That seemed like a really special idea. She was very clever about it. And the last really powerful holiday tradition I'm most excited about every year is the year we decided that we were not going to give gifts anymore. My siblings and I all lived really far from each other, and we had to spend kind of a lot of money on plane tickets. And my two sisters were park rangers in the National Park Service, and it was very far for them to go to a Target or a Macy's or something. And so one year we were just like, what if we really leaned into that Jesus is the reason for the season thing? But also it just made life so convenient. I mean, not that Jesus is not, we're Catholic and I'm into it, but it was just so convenient. Thanks, Teresa. But it was you get to be all smug and you're done Christmas shopping basically after you swing by your friend's soap booth at the farmer's market or something, and you're covered. Everybody's got some soap, not a problem. And you pick up a few things around the year while you're traveling, not like this year. And it made the holidays really, really effortless. And when everyone else is very stressed out, you get to be kind of oh no, I'm just gonna bake some cookies. And I really, really enjoyed that part. And even now, my family, we have now children in the family who are little, and we do Christmassy Santa stuff for them, but it's not that big of a deal. And while my family's holiday traditions are super, super important to me, in 2011, I started my very own holiday tradition here in Phoenix with the very first night of the Arizona Storytellers Project Holiday Storytelling Spectacular. It was at the Film Bar in downtown Phoenix. And this felt really magical to me because it was the first time I started a holiday tradition, kind of not just for me, but I don't know, I was responsible for it in the way that like moms get to be responsible for their family stuff. I was responsible for this. And I didn't know if it was going to work because it's kind of hard to invite a bunch of strangers to come meet you at like a hipster film bar in a downtown, which wasn't cool yet back then. Like downtown was much like more uncertain. And I said, well, we'll just be whoever comes, and it's a dark movie theater, but we'll have bright lights on us, and we'll all, we'll tell some stories. And my friend Bitsy told a story about her sister, and I told a story about a weird sweater that I got at a fashion show from JCPenney when I was in the 5th grade. And Liz, who's on tonight's show, told a story that night, and that was 10 years ago this week. And so you can imagine that I started making phone calls about this holiday storytelling show in July. And I was really, really pushing to figure out how to make it happen. And it was going to be, you guys know, at a drive-in, and that didn't work out. And it's okay, because what I am excited about is tonight's storytelling event is still happening. And next year, we'll probably be back out in the real world. And what it makes me feel, or what it reminds me of, is that, as I mentioned with my family's traditions, they changed over all the years because our needs as a family changed and we changed. And so that's why I still feel really good about tonight's show. And I'm super excited you're here with us on the internet, because even though it's a very, very different kind of show than the one we had become accustomed to at the Arizona Biltmore, with cookies and hot chocolate carafes and fancy clothes and like literally gold ceiling, I think it's okay that traditions change to meet the moment that we're in and meet the needs of the people in that moment. And so with that, thank you for being here and being with us, because we're your people in the moment. Merry Christmas, and thanks for joining.
Aww.
That's it. Nice. Great, guys. Also, I want to say a shout out. This is the first year my mom and dad get to come to the show. Normally, I take a picture of the crowd and I ask everyone to wave to Mike and Susie Finnerty. But tonight, I get to wave to them. Say thanks so much for tuning in where you guys are in Colorado. And with that, Kathy, are you ready to tell your story?
Yes, I'm ready.
Wait, take it away.
Okay, hi everybody. So this is the year 2009, December, and it is the night of Cafeteria, the first Friday in December to kick off the holiday season. And I knew it was going to be an emotional holiday season because it would be the first Christmas without my dad. He had passed away earlier in the year. And he was someone who would always come to all of my events and support me. And I had a secret treasure that I was going to hold on to help get me through the holidays. And that was a ring that my mom gave me of his. Now, this wasn't just any ring. This was a very special ring of his from a collection that he had put together. And it was special because the whole time that he raised us in the house, he worked so hard to provide for us. He worked by day as a civil engineer for the city of Phoenix, and then all kinds of odd jobs to make sure that we could have everything we wanted as kids growing up. And after we moved out of the house, he was able to use that extra income for himself to indulge in some things that he loved. And one of those things was creating these really cool men's rings. And when he passed away in July, my mom gave each of us kids one of his rings. So the one that she gave me, it was perfect. It was gold nugget fused together with a bright magenta stone in the middle. And I looked at each of these rings of my dad's that each one of us kids got. They were all so different. And I thought, wow, this is like my glitter collection. Like, he put a lot of thought into each of these rings. Now, my brother, the oldest child, he had the ring resized to fit him. And my sister, the youngest, she put hers on a chain. But for me, for the holidays, I wanted to wear the ring. Even though it was too big, I read metaphors into everything. And I thought that if it was too big, it's okay because I could hold on to it tighter and just be that much closer to him. So here it is, a freezing cold night in December at Cafeteria, which is a big craft fair in Central Phoenix. And I have the ring and I'm holding on to it so tight. It is so busy. There's so many customers. I had giant pillows. I had hand-painted bar stools, coffee mugs. I was selling stuff like crazy, putting stuff in bags, sending people Merry Christmas, waving. And I feel like every time I would wave with the ring, it was like, me and my dad together celebrating. It made things just a little bit easier to get me through. The end of the night comes and things are slowing down. And I noticed that the ring is gone from my finger. And I noticed it because I would spin it around all night long so that I could just feel his energy. And I went to spin it and nothing was there. And I couldn't breathe there for a minute, but I am very much an optimist, middle child, Sagittarian here. And I thought, don't freak out. It's going to come back. It's here somewhere. There's no way in the world that you could have lost Dad's ring. That is not happening. So I told my neighbors on either side. I told Georgianne from Francis, where Cafeteria was. We combed through the whole parking lot with our iPhones, the flashlights. We could not find the ring. It was the end of the night, and I was the last person in the parking lot, the last car. My husband had packed up our tables, our chairs, and there was no ring. And Georgianne, the owner, she looked at me and she's like, we will keep an eye out for it. It will come back to you. And I'm like, yes, of course it will come back. It'll come back. Nobody tell Mom. Nobody tell my siblings. I just was like so sure it was going to come back. Now, I had to leave out of town on a trip on Monday. And I knew I had to get this ring back before I left on my trip because, you know, the whole thing, the longer you're gone, the harder it is to get back. And all weekend, I kept calling, nothing, no ring. And I still thought the ring is going to come back to me somehow, some way. Monday came. I had to get on the plane to go to Fresno. And I think I told the person in the plane next to me the whole story of like, oh, this ring, it has to come back to me. And I was a mess. I was, holding back my tears. I couldn't think of anything else. And I was just so hard on myself. And I was thinking of karma. I'm like, that $20 bill that I found that one time, I shouldn't have picked it up. I should have gone and turned it in somewhere because now the karma's come back and this ring was taken away from me. All these things are going through my head. And my coworkers, they were trying to calm me down and they said it has nothing to do with the $20. Like, things happen. Sometimes bad things happen. And in the big picture of things, it's going to be okay. It was just a ring. It was a material object. And I'm like, it's just a ring. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I went to bed that night in the hotel room and I talked to my dad and I was crying, sobbing. I'm like, I am so sorry. The one thing I should have been like my older brother. I should have had it resized. I should have been like my sister and put it on a chain. But no, I have to be the middle child who wears it to spin it, to hold on to it, even though it's too big. And I just had to make peace with it. And I told my dad, I'm like, I am so sorry. I know how much you value your objects. And he did. Anything that he bought or made, he took such good care of them. He would not let them out because he knew how hard he worked for them. And here I had carelessly lost this ring. I had to make peace with myself and let it go. And a couple days went by during the week and I knew it was gone. I'm like, it's not coming back. And I'm going to have to tell my mom. I'm going to have to tell my family. They're going to be upset. They'll forgive me. It will be fine. But I'm just going to have to live with this, that I only had this ring for 6 months of his that I could have had for a lifetime if I had taken better care of it. And I get a phone call, a message. I'm in a meeting and I don't recognize the number. After the meeting is done, I sneak out and I go in and I listen, and it's this lady. And she said, hey, Kathy, I bought something from your event last Friday night. I bought a bar stool. And can you call me back because I have a question? And my first thought was like, oh my God, maybe out of some miracle, the ring fell off my finger, fell in the bag, in the bar stool with this lady who's calling me right now. And I'm like, girl, reality check. You probably messed up the bar stool. Something's probably wrong with it. You probably need to replace it. Just call her later. I waited a couple days. I called her back and she said, yes, I had the bar stool and I took it out of the bag. I crumbled up the bag and I threw it across the room to go in the trash. And I heard a clink against the wall where the bag hit the wall. And I'm listening, and I'm like, okay, yes, and your point? And she said, I went to the bag and I opened it, and there was a ring inside of the bag. And next to the ring was your business card. You'd put your business card, and I just put two and two together. And I thought, maybe you were wearing a ring and it happened to fall off in the bag. And I'm like, the ring came back to me. And I'm like, I know this was my dad's divine intervention of him saying, I worked hard for that ring. No way are you going to lose that ring. Like, he probably worked his magic and made it cling against the wall. So I had to wait another day before I could get home to Phoenix. And I drove out to her office space, and she had the ring there for me, and we hugged. Both of us cried. And look, here it is. I put tape on the back of it now. I still like to wear it all the time, and I take him with me everywhere. But the lesson that I learned from this was that when we lose loved ones, we tend to hold on to these material things of theirs so hard, sometimes so hard that they slip away. And we just have to really know that no matter what, their energy is always with us, no matter what. And to me, I call this my Christmas miracle, because I seriously thought that I would never see this ring again. And it makes me so happy to know that I got it back. But with or without it, my dad's always here to celebrate Christmas.
Oh, Kathy!
Yay!
Yay! It's a Christmas miracle. It is a Christmas miracle. I love stories like this. Here, I'll look over here. It's okay, Megan. Kathy, thank you so much. I love hearing stories about your dad, your mom, your family. I feel like is part of my family.
Oh,
they are. Thank you so much for telling us about these
letting me share that.
Miracles, because I think a lot of us are praying for them right now. So thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you guys. It's always exciting to have Kathy on this show, because she literally used to sit near me at our jobs. And but that's not how we just always pick our storytellers. You could be a storyteller too. We have open enrollment on our Storytellers Project year round. If you go to storytellersproject.com/tell, we are literally happy to have anybody pitch us. We have 40 shows coming up next year. So it would be a blessing to have, if you're inspired by these storytellers, it would be a joy and a blessing to have you pitch us. That's how I got my start. I saw somebody tell a live story on a stage, and I thought, I can do that. and I can, and you can too. So anyway, because you guys know, here in Arizona, we've had more than 1,000 Arizonans tell stories since we first founded this project. So when I say we're happy to have you pitch us, I really do mean it. With that, really the mother of storytelling here in Arizona, Liz Warren, is our next storyteller. And she's very Googleable, as long as you don't just put Elizabeth Warren and leave it. You're definitely going to get the politician. But if you Google Elizabeth Warren storyteller, you'll probably find Liz. Take it away.
Thanks, Megan. I think it takes a special kind of strength to negotiate and navigate the holidays. It takes physical strength to do all the work, to do all the shopping, to put up the tree, to do the cooking, wrap the presents. And it takes emotional strength to manage all that, especially at a time like this when we probably aren't going to get to share all that with other people. Now, I was lucky enough to grow up in a family where there was both of those kind of strength. My mother, Mary, was a librarian. My father, John Warren, was a farmer. And I grew up on a farm that he ran in Gilbert, Arizona. Now, that was Gilbert, Arizona of a long time ago. Just a tiny little place surrounded by miles and miles and miles of farmland. My father was known for his physical strength. Now, really, he was a scholar. He loved the life of the mind, but he was famous in our family beyond for his actual physical strength. There was the one time that he got charged by one of the dairy cows that decided to turn back around and come into the milking barn. Now, all he had to do was step out of the way, and that cow wouldn't have been able to reach him because, cows don't corner that well. But it made him mad, and so he took his stance, and when that cow got close enough, boom, he popped it right between the eyes and dropped that cow. There was also the time when he was driving in his truck with the windows down and a bee came in and stung him. He was allergic to bees and he knew he was going to go into anaphylactic shock. He knew that when you go into anaphylactic shock, the problem is not getting the air in. The problem is getting the air back out again. So he started pulling his chest against the wheel of his truck to get the air out. And he pulled that steering wheel right off the steering column. The truck flipped, and later that day he walked into the house. He was just fine. And then there was that time, well, you get the idea. It was his strength. Now, in Gilbert, Arizona in 1960, there were 1,800 people, and there were 8 churches for those 1,800 people to go to. We went to the Methodist church, and I'm not sure why we went to the Methodist church. Neither of my parents were Methodist. Thinking back, I think it must have something to do with the social hall in the Methodist church, which was splendid. It had a proper stage at one end, and it had a full service kitchen on the other. It was long enough and wide enough for everything that we like to do there at the Methodist church. For a long time, the services were there before they built the sanctuary, but most important to my child's memory were the potluck suppers. And no potluck supper was more important than the one that was held on the Sunday night before Christmas. When I was 5 years old in 1959, this was going to be an especially wonderful potluck because it was rumored that Santa would be there. Well, that Sunday night, the Sunday night before Christmas came, and it was a potluck for the books. Everything that you would expect at a church potluck in 1959 was there. There was potato salad, there was Jell-O salad, there was ham, there was sweet potatoes, there was turkey, there was dressing. There were those soft Parker rolls and butter. There was chocolate sheet cake, chocolate chip cookies. Oh, it was a feast, a splendid feast. And just about the time we'd finished up eating, we kids heard a little jingle from the kitchen. We all stopped. Then it came again, that jingle, and this time with a ho, ho, ho. All of us swiveled our heads towards that kitchen door. Then that little jingling came again, another ho, 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 and the door to the kitchen burst open. And there he was, filling the entire door frame. It was Santa. Resplendent in his red suit, white fur collar and cuffs, and a big bag of something over his shoulder. The light from the kitchen made a golden pathway into the social hall for Santa to step into, and step into it he did. He started walking. The people parted just like the Red Sea so that he could walk towards us children. We knew there had to be stuff in that bag for us. He took us one step and another, and it seemed like he was walking right to me. And he was walking right to me. And oh, it was really Santa. There was his beard. There was his sparkling blue eyes. There were the glasses you always saw Santa wearing. But then as he got closer, I looked at those glasses, and those glasses were not the right glasses. Those glasses were square like my dad's. It was my dad. When my dad realized that I recognized him, well, I don't remember for certain, but I can imagine how he must have felt. I burst out crying. My mother had to drag me out of there. And I was so furious at my father and at life in general. I had been betrayed. There was no Santa. My father had fooled me. I was so upset that my grandparents had to come down from Skull Valley and take me back up to stay with them for a couple days. Once I got up to Skull Valley, my grandparents said, hey, why don't we go visit your friends? And I had some special friends there in Skull Valley. Mike and Andy and Marcy. They lived on a ranch just a couple miles from my grandparents. My grandmother got a big box of Christmas things for them, and we went down to visit them. Well, of course, when we got there, my grandparents went into the house to talk to their parents, and I went out to play with Mike and Andy and Marcy. And as soon as I got them by themselves, I told them the truth. I told them what I had learned about Santa Claus, that it was all fake, that there was no real Santa Claus, and it just wasn't true. Well, Mike and Andy tried to argue with me about it, but Marcy, she was only 4, and she just burst into tears, and she ran into the house. And about a minute later, I found myself sitting between my grandparents in their big green Chrysler being driven back home in complete silence. When my grandfather pulled up in front of the house, he turned off the car, but nobody got out. My grandpa shook his head and he said, "Now that was something you shouldn't have done. You had no business telling them that there's no Santa. Now, we know you're sad and sorry about it. But Marcy, she's just a little girl, and you're a big girl, and you should have known better. And besides, you know Marcy doesn't have that much, and you have everything." He said, "You really think when Christmas comes on Friday that you're not going to have a beautiful day? You really think there won't be lots of presents and everything else for you? You know there will be." Well, I trusted my grandfather above everyone else in the world. And I wanted to believe him. And in my heart, I knew he was right. And sure enough, that Friday, when I got up and came out, there were presents under the tree from my parents, but there were unwrapped presents like Santa always brought. And it was a beautiful, generous, loving day, just like all of our Christmases. And for a while longer, a few more years anyway, I think I forgot what I'd known about whether Santa was real or not. But I'll tell you this, that wasn't the last time my dad portrayed Santa. In fact, he portrayed Santa for the next 20 years, almost, well, until I was a full-grown adult, maybe a little longer. He was Santa in Gilbert, and he was Santa in Chandler. He was Santa on the reservation. He spent many days every year serving as Santa, and he said it was the hardest thing he did every year, and that it took all the strength that he had. Because sure, some of those kids he saw, they were going to get what they wanted. But he knew a lot of them would not get what they wanted. And that broke his heart. So now when I think back on that night so many years ago, when I thought that my father had betrayed me, or that somehow Santa was a lie, I know how wrong I was. Because surely the service my father did serving as Santa for all those years was as true a manifestation of Santa Claus as any there can be. And I hope you have somebody like that in your life this year. Or you're probably that person, right? Somebody with the strength to do the work of Santa in the world. Someone who can bring the true light and spirit of the season, even in the hardest times.
Oh my gosh. Liz, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for telling us about your dad and making us cry a little bit. Now I'm thinking about all the Santas in my life. I hope our audience is thinking about those people in theirs. Thanks, Liz.
My pleasure.
Whew. Okay. Well, I hope you are. I hope you have a lot of Santas in your life. But my little segue is this year, the Arizona Lottery is kind of our Storytellers project, Santa, because this show might not otherwise have existed. Certainly, we wouldn't have tried to have it outside at a drive-in movie theater. But they've really worked to show up for the whole state in so many ways during the pandemic. And tonight's show is another effort on their part to bring support, comfort, and cheer to Arizonans. I know you might think like, oh, the lottery sells lottery tickets, and they have a lot of like billboards all over the city this year, definitely being like they're a great last-minute gift. I saw one the other night and thought, yes. But realistically, the lottery also spends a bunch of its resources. Mostly that's really its biggest raison d'etre is to support tons of statewide initiatives, but mostly to look out for the most vulnerable in our communities. When the pandemic started, the lottery pivoted to meet the moment by investing in initiatives to support Arizona businesses and community members that would be most impacted by the pandemic. In particular, tonight's show is highlighting their commitment to funding Project Haven and other initiatives here in Phoenix that help support our neighbors experiencing homelessness. Project Haven is a dedicated shelter for seniors who are experiencing homelessness currently. And that's a really, really powerful contribution because, of course, we know that the elderly are particularly impacted by the virus, but also those with weakened immune systems and who don't have access to a safe, dry, and warm place to sleep. So proceeds from lottery tickets help combat homelessness year-round, but in particular, they wanted us to let you guys know about their support of Project Haven. They also are here supporting vulnerable populations year-round. This is not the only thing they're doing because that's really their mandate. Since 1981, the lottery and its retail partners have helped to generate more than $4.4 billion for all kinds of things, ranging from higher education, economic development, environmental conservation, and health and human services. So many of the things that matter to us here in Arizona are undergirded by lottery dollars, and like you don't even realize it's happening. So with that, we'd personally like to say, hey, thank you to the Arizona Lottery for providing the support for tonight's show, and for showing up earlier in the year. They sponsored 2 shows that were both fundraisers for different Arizona initiatives, and they partnered with us on that, and we appreciate their support and their support of our community. So with that, I also would like to let you guys know, tonight's show is brought to you by the Arizona Republic, and we are going to drop a link for subscriptions into our chat. The Arizona Republic, you guys know, is my home newsroom, and it's where the Storytellers Project started. Now we are in cities across the country, and we're virtual. So this newsroom support of the project enables us to help Americans across the country tell their stories. So we want to give a little shout out to them. If you don't have a subscription, you should get one. Like, it's been a busy news year, so don't miss the next busy news year. But also, if subscription's not your thing, that's okay. Also consider the Arizona Republic is running their Season for Sharing program this time of year. And normally at the Arizona Biltmore, we talk to you in person. A guy named Stacy Sullivan stands up in front of the room and mentions how more than $2 million is donated by Arizonans across the state to support more than 100 grant-based organizations that do everything from help children and foster care to homeless people. And so if you are feeling like you're looking for the perfect place to make a donation that for sure is going to make an impact in our state, obviously, directly you can make donations to food banks and all kinds of things this time of year. They really need your help. But if you want to make a donation to Season for Sharing, my colleagues are going to drop that link in the chat as well. It's something we always talk about here at our holiday show. And it's really a way to make sure that your dollars stay in Arizona and help some of our most critical and important nonprofits. Okay, thanks for that. With that, it is my blessing and joy to welcome Ernesto Ortiz. Take it away, Ernie.
Hello. Thank you very much. In the 80s, there was this little blue truck. It was a monster truck. It had a little gear shifters on the top, big wheels, and I wanted that truck. I wanted that truck so bad. I wanted it so bad that I remember praying so hard for that truck, asking everyone, asking Santa. I even asked Sister Teresa at St. Bridget's Catholic Church, which was better, to pray to Santa or God for the present. She didn't like that much. Yeah, but I really wanted this truck. Yeah, and Christmas came. I opened up my gifts, and there was no Bigfoot. I later found out from my mom that my dad looked everywhere for that gift because he said, "This is the perfect gift." I never know what Ernie wants, and this is the perfect gift. I'm going to get it for him, but he never found it. Well, fast forward to 2015, and I wanted to get my boyfriend the perfect gift because I loved him. I loved him to death. Yeah. And he deserved this gift. Like, because he really made me feel better. I met him at an audition, and at that time I had been going through a lot of depression. You see, I'm an actor, and the reason I was depressed is I was about to turn 40, and that's always a big deal. And for some reason I wasn't booking the gigs that I used to book, like just easy. I would just always book easy gigs, easy for me, and they were going to people that I thought were younger and taller and a lot more fit, and at least I thought. But when I met him at this audition, automatically he made me feel the best I've ever felt. And we both had theater backgrounds, and we had a lot in common. And he turned into like someone that I met into an audition, to someone I love, to my best friend. So he deserved the perfect gift. And I found them. I found these promise rings, and we had talked about promise rings, and I had just been looking around, but I found them. So they were silver. They have these little theater symbols on them, and inside I had it engraved, "I love you, Jesus." Right? Mm-hmm. So the time comes for me to give him the rings, and he stops me, and he says, "Ernesto, I can't do this. I'm not in love with you anymore. I can't take these." Well, I was devastated. I actually never gave him those rings. So if anyone's out there that loves theater and is a Christian, those rings are for sale.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was devastated. It's a breakup. They're devastating, and I went into a deep depression. But the one way that I was able to deal with that depression, or the one way I deal with difficult things, is I threw myself into my work. And my day gig, I had the best one during that time. I worked at St. Mary's Food Bank. So it was during the holidays, and during the holidays for a food bank, you go from like hosting 40 food drives to 400 in the blink of an eye. So it was a lot of work. And that year, for some reason, we got a lot of cakes from a grocery partner agency, and God, we had so many cakes at that time. And we had another agency that we worked really close with, which was Andre House. And for those of you who don't know, Andre House is a homeless shelter for men. And we gave them those cakes. We gave them a bunch of cakes, and they loved it. And we felt really bad because they have a soup kitchen. They could have used other stuff like vegetables and proteins. Oh, but they loved the cakes so much that when we went for a site visit, the father who runs the program there came up to us and told us, "Oh, we really love these cakes. I have to tell you this story. There's a guy here that is staying here for a while. He's trying to get his life together. He's had, he grew up around a lot of abuse and drug abuse, and it's led him to have problems in his own life. So he's trying to get his life back together. But because of your cakes, in the 52 years that he's been on this earth, he was able to celebrate his birthday for the very first time with a birthday cake." So I felt great. This is the place I needed to be, because, I felt like I was making an impact in the community. I was really helping, and it was really helping my heart. But, after that, it's so weird how depression works, because I felt great that one moment, and then I went home, and there they were, the rings. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I got really, really depressed, and I got so depressed that I had to see a doctor, and the doctor put me on medication. But I never took the medication. I saved them, because I don't know why I thought this, but in the back of my mind, I thought, if I cannot shake this, if I cannot beat this, I know with these pills, if I drink enough of them, with alcohol, I'm not going to be depressed anymore. It's going to end. And for some reason that day, I had a great day at the Andre House. For some reason that day, when I got home and I saw those rings, that was the day. Yeah. So I got the pills out, and I lined them up, row after row. I still have no idea why I did that, but row after row after row. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at the pills and staring at them, and I was about to take them, and then I hear a banging on the door. My family hadn't heard from me for like a few days, and I hear a banging on the door, and he banging and banging and banging. It was my dad, and and my door had like glass that you could see through, and I see him there, and he's like, "Ernie, open the door. I can see you." He's knocking and knocking and knocking. So I said, "Oh, okay, I'll open the door." And I open the door. My dad is standing there, and he stretches out his hand, and he goes, "Look what I found at the Goodwill. Your Bigfoot truck."
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So, when I told this story a couple years ago, and I thought I was okay, but I wasn't. I really wasn't. But, being on stage, it was very therapeutic for me. But also, I reached out and I asked a lot of people for help. And if anyone is out there that is depressed, please, please, please ask for help. There's people that will help you. Ask anyone. Ask your friends. Ask a doctor. Call me. I'll help you because we need you here. You're important and you need to be here. Yeah. So, as a little boy, I had prayed and I wanted to find that perfect gift because I wanted that perfect gift. But, this whole time, and especially today, I realized I had it all along through family, through love, and life. Thank you.
Ernesto, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Ernie, I love the thought. I want to say, I love the thought of your dad, like a million years later, you're all grown up, you're like a whole person, and he loves you so much that he like remembers that you wanted this truck.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, God, that is so much love. And like, it's
the timing is incredible.
He's watching, so you're going to embarrass him. So I love it.
Oh, hi. I'm Ernesto Ortiz. I hope you're watching.
I love you.
Yeah. Also, Ernie, thank you so much for talking about depression in such like a real way, because we always appreciate our storytellers who are like honest about it, that it isn't like you just realize you're depressed and everything's better, right? Like you got to ask for help. You got to go to therapy. You got to take medicine. You got to talk to your friends about it. It's a process and a journey. So
yes.
Thank you so much, Ernie.
No, thank you.
I'm so verklempt tonight. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are rounding out our show with our friend Teresa Strasser. Teresa is a heavy hitter this holiday season. We had a virtual only show earlier last week, and Teresa shared her story there. And because she lives in Phoenix, I asked her if she'd tell to a totally different audience, online, or in person at a drive-in movie theater. And she said yes. So Teresa, we want to doubly thank for showing up for 2 virtual storytelling shows within 1 week. We really appreciate her sharing her story and being a friend of the show. With that, Teresa, close us out.
When I was a kid, we lived in San Francisco in the 1970s. And as hippie a situation as you might be picturing, quadruple that. My mom ran a coffee shop in the Haight-Ashbury district called Sacred Grounds, drove a VW Bug, was heavily involved in the folk dance scene, and we had an improvisational beat poet living in our garage. Imagine a beat poet, but with less structure. Her best friend was Unity. Unity's daughter was Harmony. And the school we all went to was called Synergy.
No.
Totally. I'm not here to brag about my mom's serious hippie cred, but nobody out hippies my mom in the 70s. She was radical, she was far out, and she was groovy. And she was Jewish, but as you can imagine, that came in a distant fourth. We were not Jewy Jews. We were Jew-ish. As far as I could tell, my mom's main expertise when it came to Judaism was knowing which famous people were Jewish. Now, you have to remember, this is before Wikipedia and 4 Adam Sandler songs. And the only way we had of knowing if someone was Jewish was to ask our mom. It was like a game. My brother and I would say a name, and then we could tell just by the way she repeated the name back to us if we had struck gold, or Goldstein, or Goldfarb. Mom, are Simon and Garfunkel Jewish? Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel? And we knew. The other Jewish thing that she did was Hanukkah. And in particular, she had a gift for gift giving. My grandparents were immigrants from Europe with absolutely no understanding of American gift-giving customs. They would do things like, remember that bicycle we got you 3 months ago? That was your birthday present. Are you being chased by Cossacks? Happy birthday. Only that would all be in Yiddish. My mom was so scarred by her foreign parents and their crap gift-giving skills that she vowed never to do that to us. For the most part, though, I would describe her parenting style as somewhere between slapdash and benign neglect. But Hanukkah, oh, Hanukkah, that was her time to shine. The other 357 days of the year, do the math, she was pretty tuned out. She was a single mom. She was working 2 jobs. She was doing a lot of folk dancing. She was going to her women's empowerment group to become one with the moon. My brother and I became one with Haystack's Pizza Delivery, and I can actually still remember their phone number to this day, 415-647-1929. We were free range before that was even a thing. We took the city bus to school, and when it was time to visit our father in Los Angeles, we took the Greyhound, 10 hours, right through the prison belt of Central California. Oh, look out the window. San Quentin. One summer, my mom dropped us off at our grandparents' house for a month so she could go to Vermont and work on a tree farm with her boyfriend, Rusty. Being a mom was part bummer and part buzzkill, but then Hanukkah came along and all 8 nights were magic. We would gather in the front room of our Victorian, light the menorah, sing a blessing over the candles, and open a present each night. My mom would remember a sweater that I had casually admired at Ann Taylor 5 months before, and there it was. Luxurious rose-colored flowers stitched on a cream cardigan, the kind of sweater that let you believe for a moment that you were the kind of person who would own that sweater. Every year, she scrambled to come up with 16 gifts. So, of course, every year, some of the gifts would be utilitarian: pencils, erasers, not even the good-smelling ones, and, of course, socks. Every year, you knew that one of your gifts was going to be socks. My brother and I had wildly disparate gift opening strategies. So on night 1, my mom would put out all 16 gifts and we could choose one gift a night. I like to go for that worst gift and save the best for last on night 8. My brother went for his best gift on night 1. So by the end, he was always stuck with the socks. Night 8, I'd be holding a treasure. He'd be holding the short end of a stick. His poor gift opening strategy left him bereft every year, convinced that nothing else good was going to happen for a very long time. 357 days of doom. This put a pall over every last night for me, because even though I would be holding a set of miniature Clinique lipsticks and black honey that my mom somehow knew I would love, he would be wearing a harsh shade of sad. One year, I was 9 and my brother was 11. He begged my mom, as usual, to hint at his best gift so he could open it on the first night. It was a lefty first baseman's glove, Rawlings, just like the pros used. By night 8, I had opened my pencils and my erasers and my socks, and my best gift was waiting near the lit menorah. Next to that unmistakable, bulky, wrapped plastic bag of thick white cotton gym socks. He opened up the bag. Yep, socks. I opened my gift. It was a gilded music box, red velvet inside, a ballerina spinning in pink point shoes to the sounds of the Nutcracker. This was The most beautiful thing. I didn't know anything like this existed. And if I had, I would have spent every single second of my life longing for it. I watched her spin, and then I caught my brother's face. And he looked at me with equal parts loathing and despair. Then my mom looked at the socks, and she got a glint in her eye. Who gets glinty about socks? Maybe you should look inside the socks. My brother looked puzzled, but he reached for a sock. He pulled it apart. A $5 bill. That was a lot of money to us in those days. Maybe you should look inside another sock. Another sock. Another $5 bill. Another sock, another $5 bill. She had managed to stuff $5 into every single one of 12 socks. To this day, I have no idea how she managed that to make the bag look like it hadn't been tampered with. What, did she have a vacuum packer and a resealer hidden somewhere? His joy made the sound of my music box the most beautiful song I had ever heard. She had outsmarted his night 8 disappointment. He had $60 of his own money, which he spent on Rush Records. And for those of you who don't know the Canadian band Rush, they have a lead singer named Geddy Lee Weinrib. Jewish. My brother and I, we grew up, we moved on, and we moved out. We stepped into the world, probably wearing some socks from a plastic bag. And we took our lipsticks and our Rush albums and our very incomplete understanding of Jewish rituals and all of the things that we tried to hide about our counterculture upbringing and all of the things that we cherished. 4 years ago, after getting sick and then bouncing back and then getting sick again, my brother died of cancer at age 47. And the feeling of being here while he's gone, I'm holding the music box and he's got the socks. And I don't want to hear that song. And I don't want to be the only one left with this memory, but I am. Because 4 months after my brother died, my mom also died. Maybe from an infection that she just couldn't fight. Maybe from a broken heart. I know, I just brought down the Zoom. But that's what's going to happen when you invite a Jew to a holiday party.
No.
First we celebrate, then we bring the pain and suffering. And I know that I'm not the only one feeling the loss of those who aren't here to watch the candles burn. Grief spins me like a bullshit dreidel that always lands on dread. But I keep playing. Because now I have 2 children. I'm the gift giver along with my husband. I'm also the plan maker, the trip coordinator. In other words, I'm the mom. And I think about my own mom all the time and I ask myself, what are the socks that I can stuff with a $5? How can I cram a surprise into something mundane? How can I stuff the happy into the sad and just allow them both to exist? She gave me that instinct and that question because she always did have a knack for gift giving. And to this day, it knocks my socks off.
Mhm.
Teresa, thank you.
That was beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Teresa, thank you so, so much for telling us your story, introducing us to your beautiful mom and your funny brother. I so appreciate your story, and I especially appreciate the poignancy of, I don't know, man, stuffing fivers into even gloomy stuff, if that is not a summary of what it is to be a mom. You must be really working overtime this year. Like, it's been 10 months of looking for $5 bills, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It's, I know you're right there with me having a baby and trying to have, but, this brings me to the most important point, which is to thank a certain Mike and Susie Finnerty,
Oh,
who have made a certain Megan Finnerty, who is a delight to all of us here.
thanks,
Wow.
Teresa.
Bravo.
Thank you. Hey,
Was it
Michael, let's
great?
bring all of our storytellers up on equal little squares on the internet. Thank you, Michael Heller, Teresa, Kathy, Ernesto, and Liz. Thank you so much for being part of our storytelling tradition. This does officially make 10 years of the Holiday Storytelling Spectacular brought to you by the Arizona Republic.
Congratulations, Megan.
Yay! Awesome. Well, and really a huge thank you to our community. I want to close our show by saying thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching these shows truly for the last 10 years. We are only here because you have opened your hearts to us. You've been curious, supportive, and empathetic about your neighbors. And so as we head into now, a little bit of a shorter night, or a longer day and a shorter night. This is the end of the solstice day. As we head into the new year, I want to say thank you so much for getting us through 2020. We look forward to a stronger and brighter 2021. And if only because we know now how to be a light to one another. We've been doing it all year. And now we know we're ready to do it again next year. So with that little bit of optimism in my heart, I say thank you so much for coming to tonight's show, and Merry Christmas.